everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am very excited to bring to you a new project. As you can see in front of me here, these are all my knitting supplies. First, I'm going to say thank you to the new subscribers that joined me on this platform, and for those of you who were with me for a while. I may be slow with the videos, but bear with me. I sometimes get kind of busy, but I'll try and upload videos as often as I can. I always wanted to learn how to knit, so I went ahead and I bought some needles. This needle that I'm going to be using for the sample purposes is a size 6.5 mm. Before all of this, as I said, I wanted to learn how to knit for years now. I decided during the lockdown to purchase a set of needles, different sizes, and you have the finer ones just in case if I want to do something really fine. And I also have these real chunky ones. This size, the biggest one is 10.0 mm, and this is the chunkiest, and this is the finer needle. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how I started. I have a project here that I started already and almost finished it, but what I want to do is show you how I started the project. Then I'm going to show you what I'm working on. So I'm going to be using these two yarns here. So first what I did was make a loop. So all I did was make a loop, and this is how I make my loop. There's various ways to make your loop. You choose the best one, and as long as you come to the same result is okay. All right, so that's my loop. Then I took one of my needles, placed the loop on top of the needle, and the shorter end of the yarn I hold in my left hand along with this needle. And also when you put the yarn onto your needle, try not to make it too tight. You want it to be loose enough so you can maneuver with the stitches. All right, and also keep your loop a bit close to the edge. Try not to bring it too far down, because that would be very hard to work with, I assume. All right, so here we go. And just so you know, just the beginning of this is real fiddly, and I'm still trying to master it. As I said, I just started to learn, so at the end of the day, we're all learning together. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to be working from the ball, the yarn that's attached to the ball. All right, so then I take my other needle in my right hand, and then you place it between the loop. Right, you make an X. Once you put that through the loop, you make the X automatically. If you don't get it like that, and say you put the needle in and you have it like this, just know that you have to turn it under your left needle to get that X, and that's the basic beginning right there. All right, you take your left thumb and your right index and you hold the right needle. Then you grab hold of this yarn. All right, and another thing I discovered for myself is when I was learning how to knit, just by holding the yarn like this it wasn't feeling secure for me. So what I did was wrap it around my palm, just so you have a little bit of tension, and then it feels more comfortable for me. However you feel comfortable doing that, you go right ahead, as long as you come to the same end result. All right, so that's what I did. And the next step is to take your yarn and you put it right over your right needle between the two needles. Then you take your index left finger and you push your right needle down, and you grab hold of the yarn that you just placed between the needles and pull it through the loop. And you have this loop right here on your right needle now. So at this point is when you cast on. So you cast the needle on, you cast this yarn onto your left needle. As easy as that. All right, so the one that you just cast on, you're going to place the right needle through that. And now what I find is that the needle, because of this other loop right here, the right needle feels a little bit more snug. So it feels good to hold. All right, so we're going to repeat that step. You go over the right needle, come down between the two needles, and you push your right needle to grab the loop, and you bring it right through, and you cast it onto the left needle. I'm going to make an even number, 10. I don't want to do 20, so I'll do 10 of these. All right, so you do the same thing and you repeat that. I'm so happy that I learned to do this, and as it's so easy, I think that anybody can learn to do anything as long as they put their mind to it. That's what I believe. I'm a visual person, so once I see something, I know what I'm doing, and I learn very easily by visually looking at it. All right, so you cast that on. So far I have 5 loops on the needle. You notice that I've tried this X amount of times, and I'm going to show you the reason why I had that issue bringing it through. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm going to make one more stitch. Alright, so that's my 10th stitch. Alright, you notice I had problems bringing this through. So the reason why I was having problems coming through this stitch right here, this loop right here, is just the way how this yarn is. This yarn is really chunky, but it has 10 strands of threads combined together. So when I go to put the needle through, I might miss a thread or something, and then that would cause a problem, because you see how it is here. Alright, so if you're working with something like that, you might come across that issue. Alright, so I have my 10 loops on this needle, and as you can tell, this was in my left hand. I keep it in my left hand. Now I'm going to cast them off onto my right needle. Alright, so what you do, you repeat that step, the same step. and then you bring that through. Right, and when you bring that through, what you do, you cast off by taking one off. So you cast on one loop onto this right needle right here. Right, you go through the loop on the left, repeat the same step, and you bring that through. You bring that through, and then you cast that off. You take this off. So now you have two loops that you cast on. Right, when you come to the last chain, when you come to the last loop, you just take your needle out. This is what it looks like. I'm going to repeat this again, and this is my second row. So you do the same thing here. Yeah, and this is so thick. The thread, the yarn is so thick. So I can imagine this in a scarf or something. Alright, I'm gonna make the final stitch, the final row for this bit, and then I'm gonna show you how I join the other color. Alright, so I'm gonna just come to the end for this color. Alright, so now I'm gonna show you how I join the blue. Alright, and so for the project that I'm working on, the way I join this, I realized that to join this, you do it the same way. Do you know what I mean? So what I did was just hold this like this, just so that you have a longer tail, a long tail, just as how I did this first one. And I make that loop. All I did was just make that loop. That's it. And with that loop, I just put it over this needle in my left hand. And another trick I use is just to twist this around twice. Just twist it around twice. That's it, just to hold it. I don't know if this is how it's done, but I prefer this. I think I prefer this better than if I was going to do a loop, like tie a loop. I guess it will be a bit bulky, and I don't want it to be bulky. I don't know, but I just don't want a tie. Alright, so if you want to move these out of the way, you just hold them back. You know, that's what I did. And you have this blue on top. You take your needle, and just how we were doing all along, you do the same thing. You put this needle through the blue yarn or the other color, whichever color you're using, in the same way, in an X. Right, and then you take your blue yarn and go around the same exact way. And you see what I did here, it's on here, right? And then now you go through the other yarn and you cast off. You're casting off what's on your left, you're casting it off onto your right. And I'm sorry if this is not how the professionals do it, but this is how I learned to do it, and I think it started good. Alright, you take your needle out, and this is my first blue row. So I turn that around and I repeat the same exact thing. Alright, and take that out. And this is this side. And this stitch here, it looks different to how this is. I like both of them. Alright, so let's just turn this around and continue with 2 more rows. right, and that's the other row. I'm just gonna do the last row and you'll see. All right, so turn that around. Alright, so that's the final row that I'm gonna be showing you. And this is exactly what it is. And if you notice here where that I join, it looks flush right here. And this is what it is. Yeah. So the next step the next thing I'm gonna show you is how I take this off. And what you do, you go between the same loop again, right, and you cast that onto here, but you cast on 2 this time. Right, you cast on 2, and in order to take off 1, you take your left needle and you go in the back of this needle, you go right through, and this is the bit I find tricky. Right, you go under the back loop, and what you basically do is come over this one. So what I'm going to do is bring this needle down and bring it through that loop like this, and you just take it off. I'm going to do that again. Alright, you have your 2 loops here. You go into this second one, alright, then you bring this loop through that one. And this is what I'm talking about at times when the needle goes through and leave some of the threads out. So what I need to do is to go right under. Alright, and that's that. These up here, for those of you who crochet, this up here looks like single crochet stitch, the end of it. Alright, so let me just take this thread out. As you can tell, as I was saying, with some of the threads, if you're not careful, some of the threads that's in the bunch, it comes out. Like, for example, this belong over there, so I'm going to take this and put that over there. Alright, so that, alright, if this was a whole project that I complete, at this point I would just cut the end to whatever desired length, and then pull it all the way up, bring it through here, and just end it off. Now I'm going to show you the project that I'm working on. Voila! What I'm working on is this beautiful snood. I'm working on this snood. I'm making this snood for myself, and as you can tell, I joined two. There's some mistakes in here, but thank God it's only for me, and as I'm learning, it's excused. So what I'm doing here is just, and the beauty about this stitch, what I noticed with it has a great, it's stretched very well. So even if when you do this work and you find it look kind of small, just remember, just the way that the stitch is, you can stretch it. This is going to be my wrong side. I'm going to use this for my right side, simply because there's a lot of bits at the end. Right? So this is where the blue join right here, just like I did on this one, just how I showed you here. So I'm at the end stage of this bit. Alright, so now I'm gonna do the same thing as I did with the sample. I'm gonna go through this second loop and then bring it through. Alright, so I come to the end of my work. So now I come to the end. What I'm going to do is cut this. I'm going to cut this, so I'm going to cut it a little bit off. And when I cut it, then I'm going to put this through the loop and by doing this you secure the end much better. So with that you have a tight, secure end. Alright, so what I'm going to do with these extras here, I don't have a needle with this big of an eye, so I'm going to take my crochet, one of my crochet needles, and I'm just going to crochet it between these things to get rid of these. Yep, so that's what I'm going to do next. And I'm going to get my needle and I'm going to come back and show you what I'm doing. Alright, so what I'm going to show you here, because I have these excess yarn hanging, as I said, I'm just going to weave them in between the same, weave them in between here. Is I'm going to use this crochet needle and just sew them in between the threads, and it's the same size as my knitting needles. So I'm just going to pick up any one of the stitches, just any one, and just pull it through. Bring it closer so you can see. Alright, so I just pick up and just pull it through. Alright, so this is going to be my wrong side. Alright, so I'm going to turn that onto the right. I'm just going to give a single crochet stitch and close this. Alright, I reached the end of the closure, so I'm going to do the same thing and pull this so that it closes off right there. This is so thick, it's on. I know it's going to keep my neck really warm. So I'm going to take my crochet needle again, and I'm going to weave this in just to finish it off. like, share, and subscribe. See you next time.